Hello everyone, bonjour tout le monde. Thank you for joining us today for the market briefing on digitalization of children's book in Southwest China. I'm Stephanie from the Consulate General of Canada in Chongqing. I'm Trade Commissioner in charge of creative industries. The publishing industry is very important for Canadian culture's landscape and also contributing for the literary heritage. So over the past years, the Trade Commissioner Service of Greater China Network have worked on several initiatives on publishing industry for stimulating the Canadian culture export. And recently, a growing trend we've been seeing in the market is digitalization on children's books. So today, to delve deeper into this topic, we have invited two experts to share some knowledge of this market. 我是来自加拿大驻重庆总领事馆的商务专员杨希，我负责的行业是创意产业。出版行业是创意产业最重要的子行业之一，而且加拿大的出版行业也在构建整个国家的文化产业以及文学传承方面起着至关重要的作用。加拿大贸易专员服务在这个领域也做了很多的活动，为大家搭建平台，希望创造更多的 B2B 的机会。近年来，少儿阅读数字化在中国也一直呈现上升的趋势。为了更深入的探讨这个话题，我们今天也为大家邀请来了2位专业的嘉宾，来自加拿大驻重庆总领事馆的商务专员 Samantha Tan。Miss Samantha Tan, Senior Trade Commissioner from the Consulate General of Chongqing. She has a lot of experience both in trade and trade policy. 我们今天也有幸邀请到了甘薇老师。甘薇老师呢是叫叫阅读的主编，也是非常有经验在儿童教育方面，以及同时他也是一位童书作家。We hope through this market briefing we can bring a better understanding for Chinese markets to our Canadian audience. Dan, could you please first introduce our Trade Commissioner Service to our Canadian audience?
Gladly. The Canadian Trade Commissioner Services, also known as the TCS, are part of Global Affairs Canada. Our mission is to help Canadian businesses grow internationally through connecting our Canadian businesses to our local funding programs, as well as to international partners. We have over 160 Trade Commissioner offices located worldwide. The Canadian Trade Commissioner Services provide clients with practical advice on foreign markets and on-the-ground intelligence to help them make better, more timely, and cost-effective decisions to achieve their objectives abroad. Most importantly, our Canadian Trade Commissioner Services are free of charge to registered Canadian companies, including those in the publishing industry. If you have an agent in China, for example, we can work directly with them, but we just require a little bit more paperwork to be completed.
那么叫叫在中国是大家耳熟能详的品牌，我们也请甘老师为我们的加拿大观众介绍一下叫叫。
我们从2006年开始就已经做绘本了，然后每年持续的有输出为孩子们创作。到2018年，我们将纸质的绘本改编成电子书上线，然后有声音、有互动、有反馈，然后有更多的孩子可以得到。那从那个时候开始，我们就正式进入了儿童数字阅读的领域。到2023年，叫叫已经拥有了近1000万用户，在全球177个国家，国内469个城市都有覆盖到。我们一开始呢是做阅读的，我们根据孩子的不同的身心发展和阅读水平，为他们提供适宜的读物、适宜的指导，让他们能够持续阅读、爱上阅读。所以现在我们为3到12岁的儿童设计了9个阶段的阅读。接下来我们基于孩子的一个综合能力发展，我们持续推出了叫叫思维、叫叫美育、叫叫小作家、叫叫英语、叫叫海外中文版等等的产品。然后我们以面向未来的一个培育理念，为生于数字时代的孩子们去设计数字内容。我们始终相信兴趣的力量，我们也相信自主学习的力量，所以我们希望通过这样数字化的内容，让孩子能够有学习习惯、学习动力，然后感受到学习的快乐，让他们能够成为终身学习者，以应对未来不确定的世界。
好的，谢谢甘老师。那我们可以感觉到叫叫的产品是非常的丰富的。那么我相信我们的加拿大观众也非常想知道一些关于这个中国的图书市场的一些市场趋势。I think it will be very interesting for our Canadian audience to know some market trend in the Chinese book market. So, Sam, with China as a large market, China is always listed as a top 5 culture export market. Do you have some market information to share with our Canadian audience?
Of course. Well, I think first and foremost, it's important to acknowledge that China is an incredibly large and diverse market. Each region of China is at its own stage of development, with some markets being overly saturated and others, like those of Southwest China, ready for development and further growth. When it comes to the publishing industry, in 2023, China retail sales of books reached 18.24 billion Canadian dollars. This represents a 4.72% increase compared to the previous year. Of this, the children's segment accounted for approximately 27% of the country's total retail book market. When we turn to China's digital publishing industry, we see a strong growth trend with more than 570 million digital or audio users in China. In 2022, the digital publishing industry total revenue hit 260 billion Canadian dollars. The industry includes digital books, for example, educational resources, such as digital platforms for children with audio and animation, including JOJOIN, and audiobooks. I'd say that the digitalization of the children's book market represents significant international opportunities and partnerships, especially with local players who are looking to diversify their products and content. It's important to note a unique feature of China's publishing industry is the need for the public-private partnership. China currently has over 10,000 cultural companies, including publishing companies, the vast majority of which are private companies. However, in order for a private company to publish, they must partner with a state-owned national publisher. This is quite different than that of, say, the North American market or Canada. Public-private partnerships are required so that the private publishers can obtain a shuhao, which is a unique identifier or registration number for domestically published books. The shuhao system is part of the regulatory framework governing the publishing industry in China, aimed at ensuring quality control, censorship compliance, and oversight of printed materials. There are currently approximately 585 national publishing houses belonging to 33 different state-owned enterprise groups. In Southwest China specifically, which includes Chongqing, Sichuan, Yunnan, and Guizhou, there are approximately 33 publishing houses.
Thank you, Sam, for your very informative sharing. 那么接下来我们请甘老师来给我们分享一下我们西南地区的这种少儿阅读数字化的情况呢？
好呀。其实在我国的西南地区，儿童的数字阅读发展很快。叫叫刚刚发布了一版2023年的10后数字原住民的阅读行为数据。我们会发现，在儿童阅读数字阅读分布上，前5的5个城市是广州、成都、北京、重庆、深圳。你会发现前5里面有成都和重庆2个西南城市，我觉得还是非常的亮眼哈。
那么我们重庆和成都都在这个前5里面，是有哪些数字阅读的优势呢？成就了这种我们成为这样比较排名靠前的城市。
我觉得它是基于数字阅读本身，数字阅读本身它有一些独特的优势。那第一就是它能够激发孩子的阅读兴趣。数字阅读有它自己独特的优势，它可以让阅读变得活灵活现起来。那好的内容借助技术，可以有更丰富的形式去呈现。在阅读的过程中吧，孩子可以听，可以读，可以点击，可以拖移，可以录音，可以互动等等等等。那我们也有更大的空间去发展孩子们的兴趣，去提升他们的兴趣。那比如在阅读中，我们会加入一些互动，让孩子一边读一边去猜测故事的发展，一边猜测一边验证，所以这个过程中他们的眼睛、他们的手、他们的大脑全部都是动起来的。那甚至在阅读后，我们可以向孩子提问，我们去引导他们去思考、去回答，去帮助他们更好地理解书里面的内容。我记得我们有一套书叫《去读三国》，大家都知道哈， 那个书是真的挺难读的，不要说那个艰深的文字，然后那个复杂的情节、庞大的结构，就是进进出出的人物，就真的很让人望而却步。
Sam, have you ever heard Three Kingdoms?
I have. It's definitely a classic, a Chinese classic, but I'll admittedly say that I have not read it. My Chinese reading skills are not up to par.
对，那个《三国》确实是我们很著名的一部著作，但是读起来呢，一个是篇幅很长，二一个我觉得确实历史人物太多了，很难记住。我相信这种互动版的这种趣味三国，不仅是小朋友喜欢，可能成年人读起来也非常的有趣。
对对对，我们通过改编、通过游戏、通过动画，让三国里面的人物也活了起来。他们小朋友能够通过形象的人物的外貌呀、特点呀去理解故事，那真的有很多小朋友喜欢这样的三国。那我相信他们有了兴趣之后，以后他们也能够真正的拿起三国原著去阅读啊，所以我觉得这就是数字阅读最大的优势，能够激发兴趣。那通过数字阅读，我觉得还有一个很大的优势是，它可以降低阅读的门槛。就是很多小朋友他不识字，或者他识字不多，不足以流畅的阅读，那这个时候数字化阅读就可以帮助他们，成为他们的一个拐棍，让他们去完整阅读一个故事。那其实对于家长来讲，我觉得也会降低门槛，因为要让一个小孩子爱上阅读，家长需要付出很大的精力、很多时间、很大的能力去给他们选书，对吧？但有的家长没有时间陪伴，那甚至有一些留守儿童，他的家长根本就不在家里。那这个时候，数字的内容可以帮助我们的孩子去保持阅读、持续阅读，进而去爱上阅读。
那看来是从各个方面，数字阅读都还是非常有价值的一种推广方式。
对，说到这里，我还想说第三点。第三点，我觉得数字内容它是可以推动资源的一个普惠，它能够打破地域的限制，让更多、更广泛的儿童接受到更好的教育资源。我觉得一线的、二线的、三线的、四线的，甚至乡镇的孩子，他都能享受同样的资源。他可以把好的内容更好的推广到全世界，让更多的孩子得到。
对，可能通过数字阅读这种方式，我们也可以逐渐的实现一种远离文化上的这种边界，甚至是这种国际化的范畴以内，它可以跨越过很多的国界。那么说到这里的话，我们就进入我们下一个话题。Let's talk about the interesting part about the Chinese book market. The first thing we want to mention is that the influence of social media, right, Sam?
Of course. Well, I'd say that social media in China is a completely different monster. In the West, social media is more a form of entertainment that is starting to branch into e-commerce, whereas in China, the world's largest e-commerce market with the highest number of daily transactions in e-commerce, social media and e-commerce have become seamlessly integrated. As such, in order to achieve success, it's essential that companies and products have key opinion leaders, which are in the West known as influencers, to promote their products. Another key difference in China is the social media platforms. Many of the Western social media platforms, such as Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X, are simply not accessible. China has their own platforms that operate in a very similar fashion, but the traditional Western social media platforms are not available. In China, both retailers and customers have shifted to the e-commerce, and short video e-commerce channels such as Douyin, the Chinese version of TikTok, Xiaohongshu, the cross between the Instagram and the Pinterest, of China, and Weibo, the Chinese version of X, and WeChat, for instance, have now accounted for almost 40.3% of the total children's book market sales in China, and that's just in the first 10 months of 2023. When it comes to children's book market in China, social media has somewhat changed how books are marketed. Take Little Red Book, for example, as I just mentioned, the cross between Pinterest and Instagram. This platform was initially launched as a platform for users to discover shopping and product recommendations, and has now evolved into a comprehensive lifestyle app. In addition to content creation, Little Red Book also functions as an e-commerce platform, which I think we've seen, for example, Instagram starting to branch into that, but I'd say Xiaohongshu, Little Red Book, is the originator of that. And this has allowed for users to purchase products directly through the app. Little Red Book, like many other social media platforms globally, has become a platform for mommy and parent influencers who review and make recommendations on the platforms to build up a word-of-mouth marketing and sales. When we compare traditional book retail sales to online e-commerce sales, we see a greater emphasis on images and color in traditional books, essentially, producing books for children to attract children to pick up and read. However, when we look at e-commerce as the platform, we're essentially pitching to the parents, the end users being the children, but the parents are the ones who are making the purchases. And I'd say parents are more focused on educational books and subject matter books that are going to further their children's development in the long term.
那么我们刚才Sam 提到这个小红书，我们也想请教教给我们展示一下，作为一个中国企业，然后我们在这个销售方面，包括在这个电子商务方面是有哪些的平台给我们的加拿大朋友们展示一下呢？
好。其实刚才 Sam 提到的那个我们也都有做，其实我就可以给大家展示一下。这个是我们叫叫的小红书，上面有很多推广的视频。然后呢，这个是我们的天猫店，里面有我们自己的阅读产品，也有一些图书。这个是我们叫的抖音，然后这里面有很多的科普的视频。你看第一个视频，它的播放量有27.3万。然后，这个呢是我们叫的一个直播间，会持续的去跟用户直播，所以其实叫叫也是覆盖了非常多的一个渠道。
I think JoJo just demonstrate a perfect example to our Canadian audience. They have different sales channels and also marketing channels. And the next question I think is very interesting. And I want to ask you both, what type of children's book Chinese consumer like to choose?
Well, I think we can look at this from two different segments, the B2C, the business to customer, as well as the B2B angle, business to business. From the B2C angle, popular science, also known as pop science, books have been the top genre within the Chinese children's book market. Figures from Open Book showed that short video, e-commerce, and platform-based channels sell more pop science titles than any other genre. This is likely because Chinese parents are focused on academics, and the influence of mommy and parent recommendations have pushed parents to choose these types of books. From the B2B angle, interestingly enough, publishers are more interested in prize-winning books and novels. In our meetings, in our TCS meetings with publishers and professionals, we've seen them asking more about books from Canada that have won literature awards, such as the Governor General's Literary Awards in the children's literature category.
那么甘老师呢，来跟我们分享一下，教教在数字产品的这种内容、创造内容和选择内容上有哪些需要性的选择呢？
教教其实做了17年的阅读。我们也一直在思考说什么样是一个好的阅读产品。第一，我觉得好的阅读产品一定是内容好，不管是纸质的阅读还是电子阅读，首先它要有一个好的内容，它必须具备儿童性、多元性、传统性，符合孩子的一个喜好。首先孩子喜欢看，愿意看，然后我们也可以借助科技，让这些内容变得更加多元、更加丰富。其实总的来讲，我们是希望孩子通过这样的一个内容去爱上阅读，持续阅读，独有所获。所以内容好，我觉得是第一位。然后第二个呢是体系好，因为孩子的成长有规律，好的阅读不是说今天有，明天就没有了。所以我觉得好的阅读它是需要持续的规划的，它要去规划孩子今天读什么，明天读什么，今年读什么，明年读什么，他怎么样一步一步的去挑战有难度的阅读，怎么样去多元的阅读而不偏食。所以这些都需要一个体系的支撑。那第三点我觉得非常重要，它就是能够帮助孩子成长。大家都知道说阅读它的好处很多哈，可以收获语言，也可以收获新知。但是我觉得它有一个很重要的一点，就是阅读它可以带给孩子们一些良好的行为、优秀的人格、科学的思维。虽然这些东西看不见，但我依然觉得它很重要。我觉得好的产品，甚至是我们也是这么做的，我们会持续的带着孩子去触摸这些好的东西，去帮助他们成长。
所以说，这种数字阅读的背后其实是有一套科学的方法论的，我们在构建一个好的产品。
对。
Okay, then we will move to next topic, the highlight of the day. Let's discuss the international cooperation. Then, do you think there are still some specific area we can identify some opportunities for international cooperation for our Canadian audience?
Of course, otherwise the Trade Commissioner Services would not be here. Local publishers and homegrown illustrators are collaborating more closely than ever to delve into China's cultural history. They're searching for intriguing stories and concepts for new publishers. The Chinese government is also actively promoting the expansion of Chinese children's books into overseas markets. Consequently, there are opportunities for Canadian publishers in localization, such as cooperation between illustrators. For example, we've seen a Canadian publishing house obtain a Chinese title and work with the Chinese musicians to digitalize the story into an ebook for the North American market. These types of unique opportunities are where we think that the strengths between Canada and China really lay. In the Chinese market, according to Open Book, approximately 20,000 new children's book titles entered the local book market during the first 10 months of 2023. And 40% of these were translations with the majority of them coming from the UK and the US. As such, there's still room for Canadian cooperation, which can be in many forms, such as joint authors and illustrators, or the licensing of digital rights together with printed rights, or simply just the digital right to a local platform.
那么我们教教也是一个有非常丰富的国际合作经验的企业，我们请张威老师来给我们分享一下教教的国际合作经验。
教教作为中国数字内容的一个企业，我们其实非常重视国际合作。在海外的合作方面，我们既要引进来，也要走出去。一方面，我们要引进国际上好的内容、好的资源，让我们的儿童能够享受到一个更好的资源。同时呢，我们也要走出去，将中国的传统文化、传统故事更好的传播出去，讲好中国故事。所以是为国内外的儿童去带去一个更加多元的、更加丰富的文化体验。
那么，张威老师，具体哪些项目是我们引进来的呢？
教教呢会积极的引进具备国际视野和优秀资源的合作伙伴。今年1月呢，我们和全球知名的教育公司培生达成了一个战略合作。教教将自身沉淀的数字内容的研发能力，还有数据能力和培生专业权威的内容能力测评结合起来，共同去打造一个高水准的英语产品。
那么刚刚我们也提到这个走出去的这个部分，我们也请张老师给我们分享一下。
教教积极的在布局海外，现在我们为4到12岁的海外儿童，创新的研发了一个教教阅读的海外版，教教中文，英文名叫JOJOIN。近期呢已经在北美地区上线了，用户的反馈非常积极。教教中文采用了先进的 CBI 的内容式教学，结合直播加 AI 的形式，特点让国外的小朋友也能够读中国故事，学趣味的中文。
真是听起来是非常有趣的一个学习中文的产品呢。
I should have used this app platform.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Okay, at the last, shall we give our Canadian audience some tips or suggestions?
Sure. I would say from the TCS perspective, I would have 3 major points for our TCS clients to consider. Firstly, it's important for you to find the right partner in the local market. In the case of publishing, that might be an agency, a rights manager, editor, or some other cultural company. And you can look to the TCS to find you that right local partner and help identify those B2B opportunities. Secondly, it is important for Canadian publishers to adapt their catalog for the Chinese market. When you join local book fairs in China, it's important to translate those catalogs so that the local participants are able to truly understand your titles and what you're pitching. As mentioned before, the Chinese publishing houses are very interested in titles which are prize winners, and you should definitely highlight these at your local book fairs. And lastly, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Social media, as we said, is an important and significant influence on Chinese society. So take advantage of some of the platforms that the TCS already offer, such as the Embassy of Canada's official social media platforms, including the WeChat account, which has over 70,000 followers, our Weibo account, which has 2.7 million followers, and individual apps associated with specific consulates such as Shanghai and Guangzhou.
These are very useful suggestions. 那么甘老师，我们这边也有没有什么样的建议，或者说是对未来国际合作的一些展望呢？
教教也非常期待和加拿大上下游的同行去建立一个好的合作关系。例如，加拿大优秀的一些出版商或者出版机构，我们可以引进他们优质的资源，利用我们数字化的一个优势，去重新开发这样的产品，然后引进到国内。同时呢，我们也可以和加拿大当地的一些中文学校机构去进行合作，将JOJOIN的数字阅读更好的融入中文课堂。为海外儿童的阅读提供专业的、长期的、有效的服务。
好的，谢谢甘老师。Thank you, Seb. Thank you for joining us today. I hope everyone enjoyed the session today. If you have any further questions, please contact the China Trade Commissioner Service. 好的，非常感谢大家加入我们今天这个市场简报。如果后续大家有什么问题或者是详细需要咨询的话，欢迎联系加拿大驻重庆总领事馆。非常感谢。